First, on a more personal note, my wife and I are going to pick up a brand new cat today, immediately after this show is published. I will post pictures on Twitter. It's another nude, a sphinx, and the cat's name will be Suit. For birthday suit, right? Hello YouTubers, this is Anubifier. Today is the 16th of September 2022. There was an hour-long Star Citizen Live about Pez, not the dispenser. Here's what you need to know. Today we had Jared, Ben, and Paul. Questions were taken from Spectrum and live chat. Pez is short for Persistent Entity Streaming, a feature that we desperately need to be in place for items to remain where they're dropped and also to be able to share items amongst the dynamic meshed server. Jared said that the last time he saw Paul was last year during CitizenCon for that big meshing panel. Jared asked for a detailed version of what Pez is, and Paul said that it's all objects stored in memory, held on a database, allowing for the objects to be streamed to clients, ensuring persistence. It's the foundation, and Jared stuck on that word, foundation. Jared highlighted that this is like removing all of the organs from a body and then replacing them with something new, which is not an idle task, and it will be a huge accomplishment. On 3.18, this will be added with a simple goal to switch over to Pez and not upset what we currently have. Paul said that if this works as planned, we won't actually notice any change for 3.18. This foundation allows for many servers to share data, and because we're all still operating on individual servers, we should not expect to notice. Ben reinforced this by saying that when a server restarts, it'll clear with limited persistence. Server states will be remembered and repaired, so we should see some persistence. This requires a cleanup routine for the unneeded objects based on a hierarchy. Guns on the ground are more important, for example, than a water bottle on the ground or an empty magazine, but a half-full magazine might remain a little bit longer than an empty water bottle. Paul confirmed that it's only been 1 month that they've had this for internal testing, and the team is now working on migrating it. Pez will allow a player to migrate gear between servers through the inventory system. The matchmaking changes will eventually be added once Pez is working. The server your party ends up on is currently random, but that's just a placeholder. If you crash out, you have 10 minutes to log back in before your stuff is wiped. After Pez evolves, this will persist longer. The question was, will something you drop replicate on all servers? And Ben said no, that can't happen. It'll appear only in one server. If you drop a gun unstowed and you leave and return to a new server, that item is lost because it's going to remain in the server that you dropped it in. Ben said that this effect will be reduced because they plan to greatly expand the player cap per shard, which means that you are more likely to get back into the server you were in. Ben acknowledged that this is based on the limitation of how the systems are being built. Jared reminded chat that there's a difference between what's being added and the final end state, and the end state changes constantly. Paul explained the system once again, but added object ownership is considered. They discussed this in many examples, and I'm going to summarize 25 minutes of discussion. Stowing is the mechanic to keep your gear where you want it. There's only one version of any object to prevent duplication or replication. If you drop it on A and go to server B, the object will still be in A until it's culled. There's no cross-shard replication planned. Chat then asked to mesh the shards and Paul said no. Jared asked about crashing a ship on a planet and having a 30k. How would you make sure that you could get onto the correct server to get your stuff? Pull a ship from the pad and it goes from the database to the engine, and then put stuff in the ship, and that also comes into the game engine. If the game crashes, all of that will persist on the server that you were in. When you return, it's likely that you will have to claim the ship and you will lose the gear. Ben said that they're trying to add an auto store system that will prevent a total loss, and that is supposed to be in 3.18, but that's a placeholder. Paul highlighted that before Pez, a crash is a full loss, but with Pez, the imprint of the server can be retained and applied to recover the server, and eventually matchmaking will allow you to at least return to the recovered shard, and not a fresh shard. Paul confirmed that this is a future goal, and all of this is being done to prevent the total loss, which is obviously a kick in the bag. Jared asked several why and when questions about matchmaking, and Paul said that it would be better to not change many things at the same time. Paul went on to say that 3.18 is already a full refactor of 5 years of coding. Matchmaking will be done once this is stable, and the developers who will do the matchmaking are actually the same people who are currently working on Pez. Ben agreed that attacking both issues at once would be a surefire way to break the game for months. Jared asked about the chicken shit choice to Alt F4 when losing a fight. Ben said that combat logging will make ships remain so that the people can destroy them, but you get to keep your stuff. Ben said that PEZ will not address this. The future logout timer, however, will. If you log out by accident or on purpose without stowing your ship, that ship will remain in the server and you're going to be killed. Paul said that these changes are going to come, but they need to consider how brutal they want to add this type of mechanic. It's also dependent and will make sense only after other mechanics are added. There will always be that unfortunate situation if your client crashes, there could be a total loss, but it's planned to be rare. Once PEZ is added, the team can work towards the final game. The conversation migrated to explain the culling system. Lifetime management is what Paul called this system. 3 ships per player is the current limit, but that's going to be explored and changed. Density management is being worked on by the Frankfurt team. This system looks at the entity cost per location. When performance drops in a location, the density management will start auto-culling objects in an attempt to preserve performance. This is where that hierarchy is critical. Ships occupied are more important than ships abandoned or loot or garbage. The system will be tuned so the performance is protected, but in a way that the game isn't busted. A smart system. Ben went on to say that this would also be for a player or an NPC. As NPCs, if they're using an object, that object would also hold a higher priority based on the need. They're planning to add a path cost analysis, which is a constant weighted calculation that works to preserve balance by location, type, and importance. Paul confirmed what we've been told before, and that is when they make something, it works fine on the local server, and then they release it, and then like clockwork, we bust it. PEZ will, in the future, allow our preferred state of our configuration, our MFDs, our ship settings and preferences. Ben confirmed that that is the final desire, but no promises and no dates. And that's it. A fun show. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. If you enjoyed the breakdowns, please consider subscribing so I can help to keep you up to date. Please consider sharing with a friend or org mate, as that really helps a lot. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.